Hey everyone, so this is the Cat 3-4 Murray Crit that was on March 30th, 2019, put on by Extra Mile Racing. So this was the first race of the year for me, and over the winter I moved here to Utah, so not familiar with the race or any of the racers. And this was kind of an interesting one. It's a parking lot crit, as you can see, and the surface is really rough. Lots of cracks, potholes, and just rough surface all around. And coming into this race, I haven't really done any kind of anaerobic training yet for the year. Um, I'm not in race shape. Pretty much just been on a trainer whenever I could for months. So I know I'm going to be better at holding steady pace rather than the surges. Um, so I kind of come into it with the intention of starting at the back, just tail gunning to get used to the course and racing with groups again. And then I wanted to get off the front. I didn't really want to be racing in a pack and deal with the surges. So I sat at the back and then I was looking for a place to get off. And right here, coming out of this turn, I can see there's a rider up there on the road. He's looking strong. And we're far enough in the race now that I've gotten comfortable and I decided this is the time to go. So the pack is kind of sitting up a little spread across the road. I've got a rider up the road I can bridge to. So I put the power down and get across to him. And this is about 17, 18 minutes into the race. We still have a good long time to go, but I was a lot more comfortable with this at this point in the season. And I want to be out front where I could just see the road because, again, this is pretty rough surfaces. Um, and I want to be able to see what I was riding on. So I bridge across to him, put in a pretty big effort, sit on his back wheel for just a second to recover, take a look around and see what the situation is. And I see that I bridged across clean. Nobody followed me, and the peloton's not really chasing. So then I came through the front and put in um, as hard of a pull as I thought I could get away with and still be able to settle into a steady pace afterwards because I wanted to pull out the gap and just prevent any ones and twosies from coming across and eventually just bring the whole group back to us. So hit the front, put on around 400 watts here for this much of this lap, just trying to open up the gap. Right there, hit that turn a little too hot and took a really bad line. But this guy, who I later found out his name's Chad, he pulled through, hit the front, and kept helping me. Um, and I'm still doing over 300 watts to stay on his wheel. So we're working together. We're pulling out the gap. Things are going pretty well. We're still trying to increase our lead at this point. But then it's just going to be a question of settling in and going as fast as we can hold for the duration. Um, so yeah, you can see we just started taking turns, pulling through and off. You can see, looking at my hands, how rough this road is, bouncing all over the place. Um, and that certainly had its effect. As we can see later on, we'll see that the peloton just kind of starts losing riders all over the place. And right here, off to the left, you can just see the tail end of the group. So we've got a decent gap now. So at that point, we kind of settle in to a sustainable pace. We're still going over 300 watts on our poles, still pushing hard and working well together. And we start catching up to dropped riders. And now we're just really settling and hoping to stay away and trying to make this stick. Um, so this was hard. There were several times where I thought I was going to get dropped or that I couldn't hold it. But again, off to the left, you can see there we've got a great lead. But you can see here things have changed. This is getting later into the race, and that group was completely strung out with lots of gaps. And we could see a couple of riders getting off the front trying to bridge across to us. So at this point, we know we're being chased. But we're already at our limit. We can't go any harder without really risking blowing up and then just being off the front to out the back. So all we can really do is hold the course and hope that they get tired before they get across to us. So we just keep working at it and moving forward, keep taking turns. I mean, I'm really going all in. I'm pulling as hard as I can without risking blowing up because Chad's looking really strong, but I'll take a 2-up sprint over having to try to beat other people any day. And if he's stronger than me at the end, I'll be happy with the second place after this kind of an effort. Um, so we're just keeping the power down. One big mistake I made throughout this race, as you can see here, is I continuously was leaving too much space between me and the wheels in front of me. Wasted a lot of energy that way. I'll just chalk that up to being an early season race, and I haven't done enough riding with other people recently. Um, but that's certainly a tactical mistake on my side. I could have saved myself some energy by just sticking close to the wheels in front of me. And so at this point, we've gotten pretty good with these lines through these turns. Kind of turned this into just one big sweeping turn. Now you can see the peloton again. It looks like now they're bunched up a little bit more. But what you couldn't see in the video, and we can see, is that there is a group of 3 that's bridging to us. So we kind of know what's coming now. This is coming up a little bit later, but we know there are 3 coming across to us. This is on lap 24 of 30, so we're getting towards the end, and we are pulling that gap out more and more, as you can see. And I'm trying to dig in here to prevent that group from bridging, but there's just not much power left in the legs, and you can see that we're still doing over 300-watt pulls, but that's it's just slowly dropping from what we were doing earlier. The legs are just getting tired. We were out there with the 2 of us for about half an hour. So keep riding through. Come up here to a minute when the situation starts changing. And on both of these 180 turns, we're keeping tabs on that 3-man group coming across. And right here, we can see that they're right on us. They're going to catch us. So I take this last pull, and they're right behind us. So I just sit up for a second, free will, let them come through, and then just drop to the back of the pack. So at this point, the whole strategy, tactic of the race changes. Before, I was going all in with Chad, just trying to keep the 2 of us away. Now there's 5 of us. These other 3 haven't been in a breakaway nearly as long as we have. They went hard to cross that gap. I was about a 20-second gap that they crossed over a couple of laps. So they've been working, but we've been out there a lot longer. So my tactic now is to just sit back and recover as much as I can. Right here, I see the Ascent rider. He hit his turn on the front, and instead of pulling through smoothly, he hit it pretty hard, stretched things out and caused some gaps. I wasn't worried about it because at this point I was on the back. I knew the other riders would close it. I knew I was going to have to work a little bit, but that wasn't concerning. But I did make note of it because we'll see that's kind of what that guy continuously does. So here there's now 5 of us in this group. Our average speed is picked back up with the extra firepower. You can see the group back there. They're losing more and more time now. They're pretty much out of it unless we just completely sat up and started playing games with each other. But we keep pulling through, working well. After sitting back for a little bit, I go into the rotation, take my turns. I don't do a lot of work or any long turns, but I want to keep pulling through just to keep the group working together and flowing well. I want the pace to stay high, but at the same time, I'm trying to rest it and recover as much as possible for the final sprint, because I know at this point it's going to be a 5-man sprint between us. So we keep riding along. We're getting down to, I think we've got 3 laps left at this point, and we're still picking up dropped riders. So we're all taking our turns. The 3 newer guys are taking a bit longer turns, but we're all working together still. And that gets us up to, I pull through for my next turn. But then when I come off, I decided I don't want to just keep getting stuck where I am, because as it is, I'm doing my pull, and then that Ascent rider that's hitting the front hard is right behind me. So he's the next one to go, right as I'm coming off the front and at my most tired. And again here, he pulls through pretty hard. He's opened up some gaps. Um, and I'm having to do 500 plus watts to get on the wheel, even though I had three other riders to help kind of absorb some of the distance. But he's coming through hard. So I know I don't want to take a long, hard pull with him right behind me. So that's kind of what's going through my head right now. He takes a hard pull here, gets us through that headwind stretch there, and now coming down the back stretch, that's pretty fast. And now we've got basically 2 laps to go, so we're all starting to really think about the sprint. And I don't know any of these guys. That makes it really hard to decide how to play it. So I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on them and see how they look. This ascent rider, and see, he pulls off here, and I intentionally let a gap open, force him to fill it, so that now I'm behind him instead of in front. Now I'm going to be at my freshest when he puts in his hard digs. And also, he looks the least like a sprinter. Obviously, he's clearly strong. He's hitting the front hard every time, but he looks more like a climber than a sprinter. So now where I want to be, we're coming up on the last lap here. He just hit the front again for his next turn, and again, he hit it pretty hard, but I was second wheel and fairly rested, as rested I can be at this point, so not too hard to stay with him. Come through the finish line, get the bell, make the turn, and head back into the headwind section. And right here, I've had a little bit of a gap anyway because I wasn't staying tight to the wheels. He looks around and decides he wants to go early. So he goes, and here I decide that I want to let the gap open. I don't want to close it. I want to save my legs. So instead of jumping hard to stay on his wheel, I accelerate, but I let the gap open, knowing I have 3 riders right behind me that are going to close it. And they do. So they come around me, they close the gap. I'm now in the back of the group, which is really right where I want to be at this point. I'm doing the least work of everyone, and I can see what everyone's doing, and we've got half a lap to go. So things are good right here. Come through this turn, the ascent rider pulls off again, and we all kind of fan out, and everyone is kind of, I think, deciding how they want to approach this. I know I've got a sprint in me, but I'm also really tired. I don't want to go long, so I'm staying back. And the first rider goes, and he goes really hard, and this is still a really long sprint. I should have stayed right on Chad's wheel off to the right there, but I didn't want to jump that hard, so I didn't. I laid off, stayed on the back until we made that final turn, and now we're on the home stretch, and that's when I really start my sprint. And I was able to come around to 2 of them to get 3rd place, but if I had stayed on Chad's wheel to begin with, I wouldn't have had nearly as much ground to make up, and I probably wouldn't be able to get around him. I don't think any of us were catching the other rider off the front. He just went too hard too early. But chapeau to him. It was a great race. Good time was had by all. Thanks for watching.